Welcome to That Digital Take. I'm your host, Torri Webster. Hello, party people. Welcome back to the pod. Happy November, everybody. We are firmly heading towards Christmas time, and as soon as Halloween is over, it's a full send into Christmas life. And I'm very excited about that because I love holiday travel. I love gifting. I love gifting season. I feel like giving gifts is part of my love language. We'll get into all of that today because today's episode is all about love. And I feel like we haven't chatted too much about my relationship or love in general. But I love listening to dating shows. I love The Bachelor. I love podcasts about dating. So I figured today we would do a whole episode about 10 years of love in a content culture. I have been with my partner this week for a decade, which is kind of crazy. For some context, we met in university. So we were in second year when we started dating. And it's so interesting to think about how things have changed and also how like social media has played a role in our relationship, which is also unique because of obviously my job. And so I thought this would be like an interesting topic to tackle today, sharing some things that have gone right over the 10 years, some things that have gone wrong, and obviously all through the lens of kind of influencer and social, just to keep it in alignment with everything we love to talk about on That Digital Take. So let's dive right in. Number one, the aesthetic of love. So this is so funny because I feel like this is something that has developed over the 10 years that we've been together, but there's this sort of like aesthetic of romance online versus actual romance. And people spend so much time, people spend so much money developing what looks to be like the perfect online relationship. And I think this is really unique to our generation. I think, when I think about my parents, they were high school sweethearts, but other than like the photographs that they have around the house of, their wedding day or like special moments or milestones, it's not like they ever put together moments to have like photo shoots or like couple shoots or like celebrate their love in that way. And I think that's a very unique actually to our generation. And I'll also start by saying like, I have friends who do not post their partners online at all. I have friends who have built online careers through their coupleship or their romance, however you want to kind of spin it. And I don't think there is a right or wrong way to do this. So today, I'm just giving some insight about how I've handled it, but it doesn't mean that there's not many ways you can go about dealing with romance and social media. I kind of respect everybody's different boundaries. I think it's kind of interesting. Like I've been on press trips with influencers where they're like, oh yeah, my husband. And I'm like, oh, you're married? Like, I didn't even know you were in a relationship. And that's because for them, they have those really clear boundaries online and they don't talk about their relationship. And then, like I said, I have other couples that I know that have either, weathered the storm and gone through that sort of online romance and kind of really leveraged their romance in a way to grow their careers. And either that's gone really well for them or it's gone poorly and it's kind of brought them down a treacherous path because like we're going to talk about today, like sometimes the photos and the romance don't actually mean that things are going well behind the scenes. So let's talk about that first, like how these picturesque moments are often logistical nightmares for influencers. Now, this is something I had to learn kind of the hard way early on. And to give you guys some context, like I was really lucky when I started dating Adam, my partner 10 years ago, because I've mentioned this on the pod before, but he's a cinematographer. He has an amazing eye. He loves taking photographs. He obviously is an expert at video. And so when I met him, it almost was like I had to elevate my own image and my own brand. And that was really exciting because it meant like I had someone with great taste to rely on when it came to building out campaigns or, pitching ideas to brands. And I definitely credit him with making me want to elevate my brand. And I was really lucky with that. But that being said, early on, I think there was opportunities where I could leverage our love, let's put it that way, and kind of turn it into content moments. And I think we both learned really early on that like keeping things quite separate for us was the healthiest. Meaning, if I was working on campaigns, like that's something I really wanted to tackle on my own. Yes, there could be moments where I could like hire him as a photographer or hire him as a videographer or cinematographer to shoot campaigns for me. But I think we just realized that dynamic for us was not perfect. Like I didn't want to feel like his income relied on me. I didn't want to feel like he couldn't put his energy in the right places of building his own film career and that he had to put that on hold to kind of like support my socials. So we kind of always took it as kind of a boundary of like, I'm always happy to do you a favor. I'll always pick up a camera if you need me to. However, I think keeping it separate is the healthiest. And so we've kind of gone on in our careers and also like working backwards. Like I think we worked together a lot more when we were both getting started. And I think like as things developed, we both kind of found our own paths. He got super busy with his path. I got super busy with mine. And for us, that is a boundary that really works. I obviously know a lot of creators where their husbands or partners are their producers or, like I said, they're photographers, they're videographers. I think just like even though our worlds are very similar, we really like to have our own identities and keep it separate. And I do kind of credit that to our success and happiness after being together for 10 years. And it works really well for us. So like I said, doesn't mean we don't support each other when need be or, take advantage when we get to go on press trips together. And, we have a lot of fun leaning in and creating content together because it's more rare. But I think that's what keeps it special is that it's not this like constant outpour of like, hey babe, you got to like pose for this photo or this brand shoot. And then he's like, oh my God, this is miserable. So that's just my personal boundary on it, but maybe you guys find that interesting. So this is the next thing, the idea that performance has killed intimacy for a lot of people. And this is kind of under the same guise, like making it like if you're having a hard moment and then pulling your partner in and being like, okay, now we have to pose for this ad. Like that's really tough. And like I said, I've had friends lose partnerships and lose husbands over, having that type of line and relationship. So I think just, again, having respect for each other's boundaries, respect for each other's goals, ambitions is so important. And yeah, really lends to the success of a long-term happy, partnership. There's a kind of a funny story that I think like lends itself to that moment of like performance versus like happy ever after vibes. And there was a couple of years ago, this was again like kind of early on in our dating, and we were still figuring out what that balance was of like including each other in work and where those lines would be. And I remember an intimacy brand reached out, like I think it was Trojan, and they were like, oh, we'd love for you and Adam to do a promo for Trojan. And I will just be clear, like the paycheck was there. Like they obviously had budget because they knew that this was a bit of a touchy subject. They knew probably most influencers weren't down to like buy into this messaging. But I'm also someone that really stands by like, okay, if the message is like safe sex, like I'm really down to promote that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I still stand by that. So it's not like I look back on my career and necessarily like regret this campaign. It's more just like a funny partnership boundary, which is why I think is relevant for this episode. But like I said, I didn't mind. I was like, I think this is great. We're standing by the story that is, true to real life, which is practicing safe sex, and Trojan is a great brand, and I was down. Now, I kind of forced Adam, my partner, into this ad. Like I was like, listen, I'm going to pay you 50%. And it's not like he wasn't going to get paid to do it. But I could tell from early doors in my pitch that this was not necessarily something he was like fully leaning into. He's like, I don't know, like this doesn't necessarily align with my brand, meaning his brand. And he's like, I'm a very like classy artist, cinematographer. Like, I don't know that I need to be like posing in this ad. And I was like, no, this is going to be amazing. Like, it's great. And I like kind of had the rose colored glasses on about the whole thing. And so I kind of pitched him the idea. I forced him sort of to do it. the ad goes live, it gets like boosted. There's a lot of like ad spend behind it. Plus, I think just got a lot of organic reach because, of course, when people talk about these sort of like more controversial, funny, kitschy topics, like people really like to send that to a friend or like talk shit behind the scenes. And so anyways, it got a lot of reach and the comments were very funny to me. But it was more the in real life feedback that Adam was getting, that he was like, this is a personal boundary I'm drawing. Like he would run into friends at bars and they'd be like, the Trojan ad. Like he was embarrassed. He was not happy about it. And I think that was like a really clear boundary for us then moving forward. Again, this was probably like 6 or 7. This was early. This was many, many years ago. I have not forced him to do anything like this since. But yeah, like I always say, like, go cry into your check. Like, it's not that deep. But to him, he was like, this is not in alignment. And I was like, totally fair. So I think just, respecting our partners, thoughts and feedback when it comes to our social media behavior is important. And that was obviously an early learning lesson for me. And I have not made him do anything like that since. All right. The next topic is relationship comparison culture. This is so tough in our day and age. It kind of can always feel like we are behind. We're scrolling on social media. Everybody's engaged. Everybody's moving in, buying a house, having babies. It does feel like now we kind of treat relationships online like these like startup moments. It's like constantly promoting these different milestones. And it can be really difficult to not fall into the traps of looking into our own lives and being like, oh my God, why do I feel so behind? And again, like I've tried everything essentially to find this really nice balance of, celebrating my relationship online where I feel it's necessary. And for example, like this week is a good example. Like it's our anniversary. I think anniversary content is really fun. I think it's something that I like to capture because it's really nice memories. But like, because if you follow me on social, like Adam does not appear in my content all that much. Like I'm very sparing about like the moments where I'm chatting about our relationship. And even if I am, I'm not always giving the full picture because I think it's respect on both sides. I like to celebrate his milestones. He likes to celebrate mine, but my brand was never built off of my relationship. And again, that's where like maybe I'm a bit different than some other creators because they almost become famous for their love or for their relationship. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I just think that that's a really unique position to be in when you are actually in love in real life, because then everything gets blurred. It's like, where is the line between like content and then just like enjoying the moment? And the reality is everything is a content opportunity. So then it could be like, oh, I'm waking up, he's buying me a coffee. Oh my God, my boyfriend's the best. Oh my God, look at the gift he just gave me. Oh my God, look at the dinner I just made for him. Like it's just a lot. And everybody knows that it is a highlight reel. So it's like, okay, well, you're not going to then be turning around and showing all the bad stuff. Like, oh God, we're in a really big fight because he stole my car keys this morning or whatever the example might be. It's like, if you're not going to show all of it, it does feel a little unfair to constantly be positioning your partner as like the number one person in the world. Cause we all know that relationships ebb and flow and that it's, it is work no matter how you spin it. And I think that the internet has convinced all of us that we are on the wrong timeline. And I just stand by that. It's like, I really did things my own way. I put my hands up and I'm like, I don't want to fall into, just building behind somebody else's path or doing what the right thing to do is. Like, what is the right thing? Like we did everything unconventionally. Like we didn't live together for so many years. We only bought property together after 9 years of being together. We didn't get engaged before we bought property together, like whatever. There's so many different ways to look at it. There's so many different ways to play it out. But I guess my point is if you're happy, that's number one. And it shouldn't matter what's going on online because at the end of the day, that's all noise. And the comparison culture is too toxic and too real. And like, this is just an aside, but I feel like this plays really deeply into wedding culture as well. And it makes me want to revolt so heavily against like what has gone on in the wedding industry over the last 5 years, because I feel like this more is more culture, wedding culture is so unbelievably toxic. It's like it demands so much from the people that are participating in it. Like the amount of times I've been a bridesmaid, I would love to tally up the dollar that I have paid being other people's bridesmaids. And it's not to say that I don't love the job or love standing beside my friends or love celebrating love, because I absolutely do. I just think that it's almost been blown so out of proportion. It's like the dresses are now $1,000. The bridesmaids, boxes are $500 a pop. The bachelorettes are thousands of dollars buy-in for a weekend. And that's not even counting the gifts you're giving for the wedding, or, the list goes on and on and on when it comes to like expenses around other people's weddings. So I think just like that, coupled with the way that it all plays out on social media, I personally, as an influencer, am a bit like, I'm like a bit like taken aback by it, because it just feels so performative. And I also, it's a catch-22, because I'm like, I obviously haven't been in that position. Like literally cut to me as a bride and then I like have like 5 outfit changes and like I'm doing all the gift bags. And that's the thing, like I can respect it to a certain degree, but I also think there's some nuance here. Like if you are a creator and you're doing it for content's sake, I do think that's a little bit different, because that's like brand promotion. That's potentially like paid ads. And not to be like, it's different if you're not an influencer, but like if you're just doing it to keep up with the Joneses, I guess is my point. It just feels like, what's the point? Like, this is crazy. Like if it's really about your love and really about your friendship and really about, celebrating this like beautiful coming together of families, like let it be about that. Like, let's not let it be this massive day of spend and excess. And I don't know, it's been so, it's gotten away from itself. I guess that's what I'll say. It is fun, and to some degree, I guess, kind of cringy and crazy to watch online. But in my opinion, it's gone a little bit too far. And that kind of brings me to my next point, which is when the algorithm becomes the third partner in the relationship. And like I said, social behavior in our relationship is what social media plays a relationship. Social media plays a role in our relationships now in a really different way than it did in previous generations. Not only do we now have like parasocial relationships with people, which can create a bit of, weird dynamics. Like, have you ever met the girl, and everybody knows a friend like this, where you'll be chatting and they're like, oh my God, like, did you see that X person's boyfriend liked this post or sent this post to a friend? Okay, firstly, watching other people's social media activity, in my opinion, how do you have that much time on your hands? That blows my mind. Like, I have never once gone through my partner's like sends or saves or like comments or like, I don't know. I think like as long as you trust them in real life, I would hope that behavior then crosses over to their social media practices. And yes, I do believe it's a learned sport. I think men, everyone's different. Maybe they still listen, if my partner likes a photo of Sydney Sweeney, guess what? I like that photo too. And I comment as well. And I'm like, hot. So I'm like, can I really be mad at my partner for doing that? I personally, for me, that's my line. I'm like, nope, I don't care. That for me, that is like, I am not judging. I don't care. That's totally fine for me. For other girls, maybe you have different boundaries. But again, I think that's a conversation starter, and you can be like, hey, social media behavior for me, like I would love if you don't love other girls' Instagram posts or send them to a friend or whatever it might be. Like I said, you've got to create those own ideas in your head about like what is trust and what is not. But it is interesting to me that social media does play this, like I said, kind of third person role in our relationship. And like I said, the parasocial threats, like, oh, there's a jealousy there because now, oh my God, he's commenting on these girls' photos, or, oh my God, he's DMing these people. Okay, DMs, that's like crazy. Like, hopefully your partner's not DMing other girls. Like, obviously we all have a certain level of self-respect, and we would not want our partner sliding into other people's DMs. But I just think the concept of digital jealousy is very interesting, and something that should honestly be studied in our generation, because it does bring up so many different levels of insecurity, I think, in young women. And again, I come from this from maybe a different perspective, because I've been with my partner since college. And even in that era, social media is not what it was now. Like, we were kind of just leaving the Facebook era. And that was for the most part pretty clean. Like, it was like, yeah, if you're like posting on someone's wall or you're like MSNing someone, like it was just a different time. Whereas now I think just with the ease of the way that people can, be on OnlyFans or be on whatever, like be exploring the explore page on Instagram. Like it does bring up a whole other level of insecurity in both partners, men and women. And so, yeah, it's just definitely something that I think we have to keep top of mind for this younger generation, because it doesn't really at all play a role in my life, but I definitely know that it will and continue to will for Gen Z. So if this resonates as a listener, I'm really sorry, because I feel like when I listen to podcasts and dating shows now, I hear a lot of concerns about this, like, oh, my partner doesn't post me on social media. And I actually, whatever, we'll get into that later in the episode, because I have some questions from audiences, and I think one of those was included. Okay, let's jump into the next segment. Let's talk about money and love in 2025. Now, we've talked about money on a couple of episodes recently, but I think this is really interesting. And this is sort of the aesthetic tax of love in 2025. I feel like now, because of the way things are perceived on social media when it comes to love bombing and love, it feels like everything needs to be a luxury dinner. Everything needs to be vacation content. We're off to Europe again. Everything needs to be curated gifting. Everything needs to be 5 stars, because of the way that we perceive love online. But what about this money? Like, who pays for the aesthetics? Like, is it the guy paying? Is it the girls paying? Is this something you guys decide together? It's very interesting to me. And I will say, I'm someone that has to some degree had to buy into this in some moments in my career. I'm trying to think back to maybe a couple examples, like, you know, when we did our like big couples retreat / vacation to Europe and Southeast Asia a bajillion years ago. Like, I remember forking up a lot of money to stay at really nice hotels, because I thought that was an opportunity to kind of build my portfolio and my travel portfolio. And obviously my partner's a photographer, so we kind of like did it that way and worked with the hotels and spent money and like kind of went the luxury route. But again, like, not to be like, I'm protecting what I did because it makes more sense, but it's like, if you're doing it to build your business, all the power to you. But if you're only doing it so that someone pats you on the back and comments, oh my God, beautiful trip, like beautiful life, like jealous on an Instagram post, like, what are you all doing it for? Like, shouldn't the number one priority be like financial intimacy versus this like overspending just to look aligned with the rest of society? And again, I'm not like judging people for wanting, sorry, my voice. I'm not judging people for wanting to spend money to kind of celebrate their love. I guess what I'm judging is if you're actually not happy behind the scenes and you're kind of putting this Band-Aid solution by spending money to make it seem like you're in love, then that is kind of what I have a problem with. And I think it's all too real and all too common that couples genuinely nowadays, I'd say 50-50. Like, we don't know if they're happy or if they're literally just in this relationship because their Instagrams get more likes when they post together. And like, I don't mean that in like a harsh, like gross way. I just mean like, it's just a bit cringe. It's like, I want the younger generation to be with people that are like absolutely right for them and make them stoked and happy versus like staying with someone just because it feels like the right aesthetics or the right, like price point or the right, like just all of those things. Like, it's just like, oh, like I just can't. So let's jump into now the opposite, because I feel like I've been shitting on social media when it comes to love. Had to break for water because I partied way too much during Halloween. Okay, we're back. So I've been shitting on what social media has done wrong for love. But what about what social media has done right? The first thing, I think representation, like in the best way. Like, I feel like we now see so many different versions of what love can look like. I think social media has normalized couples therapy and exploring, you know, healthy ways to show love, different scripts of love, different ways to celebrate love, and kind of letting people choose the relationship model that suits them best. And I think those are things that social has been incredible for, and to some degree has also been the confidence I've needed to do things my own way and just be like, I don't need to follow somebody else's script. I can fully do this my way and what works internally for my relationship. And I really don't need to base it off of other people's next steps or milestones or anything like that. So I think those are like confidence building in the way that we really can carve our own paths and feel confident sharing what we want to share versus, you know, doing it by somebody else's rules. So now I kind of wanted to pivot and talk about how I kind of survived 10 years in the public with my career, like in a very public career, I would say. Like, I think, like I said at the beginning, like the boundaries for us have been really important. That like started very early. I think having rituals for us that are super private are important. There's moments that just don't need to be online. And luckily, I feel like we've always had the nuance of understanding that without even having to talk about it. It's like if I can't think of an example, but like if, one of our families is going through something really tough, like that's not something that we're like posting online about. And I think just understanding where those lines are is great. I think another thing that has worked for us is not chasing viral romance. Like I said, I was never someone that wanted to build my brand off of the back of my love story. And I don't mean that with any disrespect to people that have. I want to be a standalone. Like I want when people to think of me, they think of Torri. And of course, in respect to my partner, they'll also think amazing thoughts of Adam. But just with us as separate entities in mind. And like my business can go on and flourish without his involvement and vice versa. And like I said, for us, that's such a healthy way for us to build our businesses and support each other's ambitions. And I think part of what inspired this a little bit was Victoria Beckham and David Beckham's documentaries, because I think watching both of their documentaries, you see people that care deeply about their own careers, but also share the same values. And that's very much been Adam and I, not to be like, we're Victoria and David Beckham, because, that's crazy. But I just mean like, I'm very inspired by stories like that because those are the stories I resonate with. It's like people that support each other's ambitions. They don't leverage each other to try to like get like a gotcha moment or one up one another. It's always about supporting the other party and showing up and, like doing it with your full chest. And then finally, I think just like not focusing on the cinematic parts of our love. And I guess that falls into a lot of what I've already talked about, but not doing something just for a photo, not organizing a special date night just to post it on social media, having those private moments be private. And then when it does make sense, being okay with capturing them. And that's kind of how I've navigated that over the last 10 years. And I actually think I've done a really nice job. Again, not to like pat myself on the back, but I think there's a really beautiful balance. I'd say most of my audience would probably recognize Adam and be like, oh my God, yeah, that's her boyfriend. But in the same breath, like I'm not someone that gets the DMs like, where is he? Haven't seen him in your content recently. What's going on? And I like that I've built it out that way. Like I like that people aren't asking. Like Adam's been gone traveling the last couple of months on his movie and working so hard. And that's not something that I talked about it a bit on the pod, but it's not something that I was like actively talking about on Instagram. And I like that people aren't like, they've broken up. Haven't seen him in a bit. It's like, well, no, he's working. I'm supporting him. Everything's literally perfect. There's no issues. And again, I think that's all to do with the way we brand ourselves. So yeah, if I can encourage you to do anything like that moving forward in your own career, or if you are trying to navigate what that might look like, if you are trying to pursue a more public life, then hopefully that gives a little bit of insight. Oh, and one last thing Kim Kardashian taught us, which I think is very beautiful, is to never speak ill of your partner in the public and in the public eye. I think that's so nice. I think, we see her on interviews, we see her on her own show talk about her relationship with Kanye West. And it's like, you could say a million things about Kanye West, and she always just maintains a very high level of respect for him. Obviously, it's the father of her children. But I think if we can take anything away from that, it's like, what is private should remain private, and it's really not up for the world to see. And I think that's a great lesson. And I think the people that go online and like drag their partners and drag their boyfriends, like, I think there's a special place in hell for people that do that. There's like some DMs going around right now in one of my friend groups trying to drag this guy down. I'm not like, this is like such side drama, but like just kind of interesting. Like a very peripheral friend was like sending DMs to my friend being like, avoid this guy at all costs. Like, I'm going to ruin this guy, avoid this guy at all costs. Like, I'm going to ruin his reputation. It's like, there's karma there. Like there's dating karma there. There's bad karma there. Like I think keep it clean, right? Like let's just stay in our own lanes. I think keeping what's meant to be private when it comes to relationships is kind of just the vibe. So anyways, take that for what it is, but maybe Gen Z or younger listeners will resonate with that more, because I do think social media plays such a massive role in the way that people live online and love online, and Don't even get me started on the dating apps. That's a whole other episode. God bless the day that I met a man at a bar and I never had to be on a dating app. But Jesus Christ, like I feel so bad for the young generation because like I hear stories and I'm traumatized by them. So I'm going to end the episode off on answering some DMs and some questions about love because hopefully this will, again, just inspire. And like I said, it's not to say that I am doing everything right or that I know everything. But, 10 years under my belt and still in a very happy, loving relationship, I've learned a thing or two. So I'm going to share a little bit of my insight today. Okay, number one, this was the first question. My partner doesn't post me online. Is that a red flag or is that just his personality? Okay, there are potentially many schools of thought around this. My personal take is if you are in a happy, healthy, loving partnership, I think in our day and age, it is very nice to show some level of cheerleading and or showing off of your partner. Again, personal opinion, but I do think it's nice when, a partner can post a photo of the two of you and say happy birthday, or post a photo, a story and say happy Valentine's Day, or something that Adam does for me, which I think is just so nice and uncalled for, is like he'll post some of my achievements. Like if I've done a cool interview or if I've posted a cool campaign, like he'll repost my story and just be like, oh my God, I'm so proud of Torri or whatever it is. And I think those moments, I don't mean to say that like public displays of affection are necessary because like I said, what's private can be private, but because social media is this place now where we are being perceived no matter how we spin it. We're being perceived by our audiences, by our brand, by brands, by listeners, by all of these things. I think that it's really nice to, if you want to put your partner on a pedestal and give them a little moment, I think that's lovely. Do I think it's a little strange when guys won't post their girlfriends and it's like very, very, very private? That kind of gives me like a weird red flag a little bit. Yeah, because I'm like, well, what are you hiding then? Like, wouldn't you want to shout from the rooftops? Like, look how beautiful my girlfriend is and look how fabulous she is and look how happy we are. Like, to me, it's more common that the guy won't post the girl. And that is a bit of a strange red flag. Now, there is a caveat to this. If your partner is someone that genuinely never posts on social media, like I'm talking like doesn't have an Instagram active profile, doesn't post Instagram stories, doesn't know how to use social media, also hot, like also very amazing to just have zero social presence and everything's private. Like, I think that's totally fine. But if it's a guy that is like actively scrolling on Instagram every day and then he's still not posting you, I would question why. That is weird to me. So I'll leave you with that. All right. Number 2, does spending money on aesthetic dates matter? Or is that just social pressure? Again, I think this is a very personal question, but for me, to a certain degree, yes, it's always been somewhat important to me to have like aesthetic looking celebrations or milestones or dates. And again, maybe I have a different perspective because 9 times out of 10, I am capturing it for social. So like for me, it turns into like a bit of a work moment. But that being said, if we're just having like a casual date night and like sitting on the couch and eating dinner, I don't care at all about like what money was spent or the aesthetics of the night, or like you have to almost like differentiate it as 2 different things. Like, is it a milestone where that's going to matter to you? Like a 10-year anniversary, like will you spend the extra money to get the nice hotel suite? Like, yeah, okay. That's like a nice splurge, a nice celebration. But if it's just like a casual Friday night, like why do you care? Like at that point, it feels like maybe your intentions are in the wrong place. I'm someone that is like, I would love it to be low key, glass of wine, watch a movie, amazing. And I'm really not concerned about the aesthetics. But again, I think finding your own boundaries, finding your own lines there is what's most important. And more than anything, I think it's just about communicating that to your partner. Like, Adam knows where my expectations are if it's like a really fun, cute milestone and we can take nice photos or whatever it might be. But he also knows that I'm very low maintenance, 365, like the rest of the year. So I think just having those conversations and being upfront with your partner about what's important to you. And again, love languages, like that's something so important, is understanding someone's love language. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, like I love to give gifts. That's like definitely one of my love languages. I don't care to receive them. So it's more the way I give love versus receiving love. But if your partner is like acts of service, like maybe just doing something really thoughtful for them is a way to show love versus like paying for like an aesthetic date. I would say that my love language is acts of service. And what is the other one? I think acts of service is my main one. Like showing love by someone doing something really nice for me or like having me in mind is like the best. Okay. And then the final question is, how do you keep romance alive once the dopamine of the newness is gone? Which is pretty funny. Well, I will say when you're in the right relationship, then you're never really thinking about this because like I said, somehow I've blinked and 10 years have gone by and it's just been an amazing ride. And it doesn't feel like the newness is necessarily gone because there's constantly new adventures, new challenges. You're really hopefully growing together. So you're always kind of like, finding new paths and new ways to get to know each other and whatever that might be. But if you feel like you are kind of in that rut, or there's definitely a funny thing in relationships where people talk about like the terrible twos. Like I feel like the 2-year mark is really interesting because to your point, maybe like the newness has worn off and you're really settled into real life. I think what can be nice is just going back to like, what are the goals of this relationship? Like, what are your values? Like, what are things that you care about? And what are things that you enjoy doing together? And Adam and I have always been really clear about that. Like we talk so much about our love for cinema and going to the movies. And again, they don't have to be like expensive activities, but just finding things that bring you pure joy that you can enjoy together. A wine tasting, going shopping together. Adam and I did a really fun thing a couple years ago where we each set a budget, like the same budget. And then I would go into the store and pick something for him and he would go into the store and pick something for me and we'd like shop for each other. Anyways, like coming up with like fun, unique ways to spend time together that's maybe different or a little bit fresh. I think they also say like taking a trip is a great way to like, just kind of shake things up a little bit, like see something new, explore something new and make new memories. And I think that that's always a really great way to kind of like bring it back to the beginning and be like, oh my God, this is so like fresh and exciting again. And that's still something we love to do all these years later. Love planning trips, love going on new adventures, making those memories. And just being clear on if your ambitions are changing, being open if your values are changing. Cause I think that's when like things can start to go sideways. And just, keeping that communication really clear, crystal clear. Okay. So my final thing for today is I would love to know a social media boundary that has maybe improved one of your love lives. If you can leave a comment below, please let me know. Is it that you don't post each other online? Is it that every Friday you have a photo shoot to celebrate each other? I don't know, but I would love to hear other people's unique positions on social media and love because, like I said, I just think this is unique to our generation. And I'm curious how this will continue to play out for my lovely Gen Zers because it's a tough one out there. And a lot of it is just perception and a lot of it is bullshit. And I don't want the younger generation to get caught up in it because I think it's just, it's really not the purpose of a happy, healthy relationship. All right. I hope this was fun to give you a little more personal insight into my life today. I'm off to celebrate my 10-year anniversary, which is super fun. And I hope you all find love in 2025 and beyond because we all deserve it. All right. In the spirit of it, love you, mean it. See you in the next episode. Bye.